Opposition parties from the left and far right are threatening France's government with a no-confidence vote. In a visit to Kyiv, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz defended his country's refusal to send Ukraine Taurus long-range missiles.
Pro-European parties won Romania's general elections, but far-right parties secured over 30% of votes, attributed by many to delays in Schengen accession.
French Prime Minister Michel Barnier's government is hanging on by a thread. On Monday, Barnier decided to use the controversial Article 49.3 of the French Constitution to force the adoption of next year's social security budget. In retaliation, both the left-wing coalition, the NFP, and the far-right National Rally Party have announced that they will be filing separate motions to topple Barnier's government. The confidence vote could come as early as Wednesday. So what happens now? Well, either the motion is passed by the majority, bringing down the Barnier government, or it could be rejected and the social security bill will then be adopted and then sent to the Senate. However, the first option currently seems like the most plausible one, considering all four parties in the NFP coalition have declared that they will be voting this motion that's between 180 and 192 seats. The far right and its allies have 141 seats. If all MPs from both groups vote to topple Barnier, well, they will have more than the 289 seats necessary to do so. And if the government falls, it will be the first successful no-confidence vote since 1962, back when Charles de Gaulle was president. Sofia Katzenkova reporting from Paris for Euronews.
During a surprise visit to Kyiv on Monday, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz defended his country's refusal to send Ukraine Taurus long-range missiles, but stressed that his support for the country remains strong.
Bei einzelnen Waffensystemen haben wir eine bestimmte Einschätzung, ob das richtig ist, sie zur Verfügung stellen oder nicht. Das hat was mit der Reichweite zu tun und den Notwendigkeiten, die Zielsteuerung zu kontrollieren. Und deshalb haben wir gesagt, da nicht. Aber das mindert unsere Unterstützung nicht, die eben sehr umfassend ist. Und das ist mir wichtig zu sagen, auch umfassend bleiben wird.
Scholz's visit is the first time in more than 2 years and comes just weeks after Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky criticized him for having a phone call with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Zelensky said that German air defense systems have saved tens of thousands of people in Ukraine, but also said support should increase. During the visit, Zelensky took Scholz to a military hospital where they spoke with wounded soldiers. He also showed Scholz through an exhibition of drone equipment, showcasing domestically produced drones as well as those created in cooperation with German companies.
Hungary's foreign minister has reiterated Budapest's stance on peace during his 12th visit to Moscow since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Peter Szijjártó, who has repeatedly visited Russia, a step that his European colleagues have avoided, met with Sergei Lavrov on Monday. Both leaders discussed the conflict in Ukraine.
Úgy látjuk, hogy 1000 nap elteltével minden eddiginél súlyosabb eszkalációs kockázat alakult ki az Ukrajnában zajló háború kapcsán. És úgy látjuk, hogy az elmúlt időszakban sok olyan veszélyes és felelőtlen döntés született, amely egy szomszédos ország, mint Magyarország számára is különleges veszélyeket jelent.
The visit to Moscow coincides with Hungary's rotating presidency of the European Union. In July, Prime Minister Viktor Orbán traveled to Moscow and met with Vladimir Putin, sparking sharp criticism from the EU. Under Orbán, Budapest has repeatedly pushed for negotiations with Moscow.
On the streets of Bucharest, Romanians are responding cautiously to the outcome of Sunday's parliamentary election. Final results on Monday show that pro-Western parties won the most votes and will look to form a coalition government. But increased parliamentary seats for the far right could make it difficult to form a majority and reach agreements.
Mi-e oarecum teamă pentru că s-au întâmplat atâtea în ultima vreme și cu alianțele astea între ei n-a fost nimic benefic pentru noi, dar cel puțin avem o speranță. Avem o speranță că suntem mai mulți, cei mai mulți care putem lua decizii. Nu este 30% al extremiștilor care nu au puteri încă depline, oricâte alianțe ar face ei.
On Sunday, the second round of the presidential election will take place, of which analysts say the outcome would clarify the political situation in Romania.
Este într-o fază încă foarte complicată. Nu s-au lămurit multe lucruri. S-au lămurit câteva importante, mai sunt altele de lămurit. Important este că se poate crea o majoritate, că nu avem un parlament suspendat și asta e cel mai bun lucru. Majorități se pot crea, depinde în ce direcție. Și atunci e clar că factorul decisiv va fi viitorul președinte în numirea unui premier și în coagularea unor majorități.
The nationalist independent candidate Călin Georgescu won the most votes in the first round of the presidential election. He will go head-to-head with Liberal candidate Elena Lasconi in the second round next Sunday.
Pro-European parties won Sunday's parliamentary general elections in Romania, but far-right parties achieved a better score than never before, which is more than 30% of votes. One of the arguments used by the right wing during the campaign was that Romanians are not respected by the EU, and the delayed late accession of Romania and Bulgaria to the Schengen area was a proof of that. Since 2007, Romania is a member of the EU, and in January, 13 years after the beginning of the process, it finally became a full member of the free movement area.
The Schengen story was actually very used by the sovereignist parties and the far right, saying, listen, Brussels does not treat us as equal partners. And I think this also contributed to the whole general feelings against the EU.
Since 2015, many member states have been temporarily closing their borders, referring to health or security reasons.
Prevailing mood right now in the society is not, we got it, but finally. Plus, some Romanians are kind of jokingly talking about it, saying that, well, right now Schengen zone is generally in trouble. A lot of countries are imposing border controls.
It is now clear that Romania remains a pro-European country despite a massive rise of anti-EU narratives that has influenced many citizens via social media. According to Globsec, 83% of Romanians support the country's EU membership, but more than 70% believe that Romania is not able to influence the EU decision mechanisms.
A certain part of Romanian population feel that they are kind of second-class citizens of the European Union.
I think the battle is we are disillusioned with the West because not everyone has benefited of our membership to the EU. You have people that are not living worse, but they don't feel that Romania has economical growth because we have a lot of inequalities between the classes.
Now is the time for negotiations in Romania to form a government. And in the meanwhile, this Sunday, citizens will vote for the second round of the presidential elections, where the ultra-nationalist anti-EU candidate Călin Georgescu had a victory on the first round. He will face the conservative pro-European Elena Lasconi.
Germany, France, the UK and the US have called for de-escalation of violence in Syria, after rebels marched on government-controlled areas, reigniting violence in the 13-year-long conflict. In a joint statement, the NATO countries urged the protection of civilians and infrastructure to prevent further displacement and the disruption of humanitarian aid. An alliance of Syrian rebel groups seized control of Aleppo over the weekend, with Syrian President Bashar Assad announcing a subsequent counter-offensive. Syrian state television claimed government forces had killed nearly 1,000 insurgents over the past few days without providing evidence. The surge in violence comes at a time of high political turmoil in the Middle East, with Israel waging war against Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Renewed violence in Syria risks involving more regional powers into the conflict. Both Russia and Turkey have their own interests to protect, with both sides offering support to opposing groups in the country.
Thousands of workers at Germany's Volkswagen headquarters in Wolfsburg began warning strikes on Monday morning. The Works Council slammed shareholders for prioritising billions of euros profit as workers face job insecurity and mass layoffs.
Ja, heute hat die IG Metall zu einem Warnstreik aufgerufen, weil wir natürlich uns in der momentanen Situation bei Volkswagen verunsichert und unzufrieden sind. Viele machen sich Sorgen. Sie merken das alleine schon aufgrund der Tatsache, als wir gerade rausgingen, sind es sehr viele Menschen, die sich bewegen, aber es ist still. Es ist ja so, als ob man ein Teil einer traurigen Veranstaltung wäre und das ist schon sehr beklemmend.
The mood in Wolfsburg is sombre as talks between the union and VW are set to continue next Monday.
Ja, ich bin ja jetzt seit über 40 Jahren Mitglied bei Volkswagen. Mittlerweile bin ich in der sogenannten Alterszeitzeit, also in der passiven Zeit. Aber ich bin ja auch langjähriges Mitglied der IG Metall und ich war ja auch ein Vertrauensmann. Und natürlich bin ich verbunden mit der Region, mit dem Unternehmen Volkswagen. Und ich bin ja auch sehr betroffen. Ja. Ich mache mir auch schon Sorgen, was ist mit der Zukunft der Stadt, mit der Zukunft der Region, weitere Regionen, die betroffen sind, auch im Werk Emden, andere Kollegen. Unsere Kinder, wo lernen die, wo arbeiten die in der Zukunft, das ist schon sehr beklemmend. Ja.
9 out of 10 VW plants located across Germany joined the strike as the car company plans to shut 3 plants, terminate thousands of employees and slash wages by 10% in a bid to save cash as consumer demand for cars is stuck in neutral. But declining sales are not just hitting Germany. Italy, France and Belgium are also reporting a dramatic slump in sales, which could lead to a deeper crisis within the Eurozone. Liv Stroud in Wolfsburg for Euronews.
Euronews. The news.